Hello, Meade County and Green Wave Nation. We're back here for week 6 of the football season, and this week's senior spotlight, we get to sit down with Mr. Grant King. Welcome to the show. Grant, for all the Green Wave Nation out there, maybe start off and just kind of introduce yourself as far as your role with the football team now and how long you've been a part of the program and playing football here in Meade County.
So right now I play outside linebacker, and I've been playing and tight end on offense, and I've been playing since about as long as I can remember. I mean, I played in high school, middle school, little league, all that stuff. So I'd say I've been playing just about as long as I can.
And you've had some, got a little scare in that first game against Henderson County.
Yeah.
Was your ankle?
Yeah, it was my right ankle. I was playing jack linebacker, and they had a pretty big tackle, and he landed on me.
Oh.
Yeah.
But luckily you was able to come back the next game, and
I was just gonna.
you know, me and Coach Mofield been talking on the show. I think dang near every game you've been right there, second place with the most when it comes to tackles in the game. You're in there hitting all the time, and Coach Mofield said that's one thing he's always loved about you is you love to hit. That you prefer the hitting versus the getting hit.
Yeah, it's definitely hurts less.
Well, for those that don't know you, who's Grant King off the field? Like, what do you like? If you're not here at football practice, what kind of stuff are you doing?
I'm really into working out. My dad and my older brother are really big influences in my life for that kind of thing. And I'd say I'm really active in my church, and in school I try to just kind of be a student athlete and that kind of deal.
I got you. That's awesome. So, if we're riding in the car, what are you putting on the radio?
Country.
The
Wolf. Yeah.
The Wolf.
Yeah, that's my go-to station.
And then when it comes, if we're going out to eat, what do we eat?
I'm a really big steak guy. I really like that kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much open to anything. I'm not a picky eater at all.
It's hard to pass up a good steak.
Oh, 100%.
How you get it cooked?
Medium rare.
Oh, that's my man.
Yeah.
No well done.
No well done. No.
And then what kind of talk about what it means now that you've went from youth football all the way up to the high school. What has it meant to you to be a part of this football program?
It's huge to me because I can remember whenever I was younger watching all the seniors out there and just the football team, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So being able to actually experience that, it's massive in my life.
And y'all been away for a little bit, but it's pretty special walking out on the home field in Death Valley on Friday night.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It still gives me cold chills thinking about it 25 years later. But you know, y'all have got one more game left this week with Bardstown before you roll into district play. You've been on a great run, 4-game winning streak. So, what's the mood in the locker room right now going into this Bardstown game?
I'd say we're really trying to focus up. Bardstown is a really talented team, and I'd say we're just trying to take it one week at a time right now.
Pretty upbeat.
Pretty upbeat.
As far as the way the season's went.
Yeah, really excited just for another opportunity to win.
Well, we wish you the best of luck on Friday night. But before we jump off here, maybe talk about, senior year's here. It's going to go by in a blur.
Yeah.
Already halfway through the season. I don't know how that happened, but when you graduate this spring, what's Grant's plan for life after high school?
I just got accepted into Kentucky for kinesiology, so I would be pursuing a career in physical therapy, and football-wise, I haven't gotten any big offers yet, but I haven't really put my name out there, but I'm kind of just open to whatever hits the table. So if an offer comes by, then obviously I would take it.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I haven't really put my name out there yet.
Well, that's awesome. You've already got accepted to UK.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. We got the only thing I love more in the Green Wave. I'm not more in the Green Wave, but it's the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Well, Grant, we wish you the best of luck Friday night. and for the rest of the season. And we thank you for coming in here today to have a talk with us.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And for the rest of you, we'll be back in just a minute. Sit down with Coach Mofield and take a look at last week and this Bardstown game coming up. Hello, Green Wave Nation. We're back again with Coach Mofield. This week 6. Man, this is rolling too fast.
It's going by fast, Chad. It's going by fast.
So, I guess we'll take a look back at the Daviess County game before we look forward to Bardstown. Ended up having rained on their homecoming parade a little bit. But
Yeah, they had a lot going on down there. They were, we were hoping to use that little bit of motivation. They had beaten us, I think I said on last week's show, 73-14 over the last 2 years. And we hadn't had much success against them. They had a good run of talent last couple of years. They were actually talented this year, I thought. Kind of one of my fears came into being early in the game. The quarterback gets ejected from the game, and they put their backup quarterback in, number 7. And watching film leading up to Daviess County, I felt like, in my opinion, number 7 was going to be a harder guy to handle for us because of his ability to run. 6 may have been a better thrower. I don't know. That's debatable, but 7 could run. And I was a little bit fearful. Well, 6 gets ejected. 7 comes into the game, and 5 is one of their best players. He's just a sophomore. Ironically, he played slot mostly, and we did a good job on him. I felt like he had a couple of runs, but number 11 ended up being their single back with number 7. And if any of you folks out there were at the game last week, you realize number 11 can run too. So they had some guys that could scoot. They were big and physical. They had a couple of kids out with injuries. So did we. So we had 3 starters out. 2 of those were two-way starters. So we usually don't talk about injuries and all because it's just part of the game. You got to play. There are no excuses. But Daviess County had some kids out. Meade County had some kids out. We were fortunate. It was a tough situation. They did a couple things to us that was unique to us up until last week. We hadn't seen, I guess. We hadn't seen it. And then we had to make some adjustments at halftime. Our ability to be able to kind of put it away there in the fourth quarter with the strong running game helped us. Ethan Kaiser came in and ran between the tackles well and really protected the ball. That's what we needed for him to do. And I thought our offensive line kind of took over there a little bit. And our defense kept us, kept them from scoring a lot of points. So, again, I think it was total team effort, unselfish bunch of kids that we're coaching right now.
well, I'm glad you brought up Ethan because we've got a lot of stats we can look at. Cade had an awesome game, put up a lot of good yards in the air, a couple touchdowns, ran for 1. Bennett had a great night. I think he had 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, 7 tackles. And I saw he's up for Player of the Week on one of those things.
Yeah, he's been very consistent. Both Bennett and Cade have been very consistent for us this year, regardless of what role they play for us.
And not to take away from them at all, they had a great game. But sometimes you got guys doing things that won't necessarily show up in the big kudos of the week. But
right.
Ethan, that last drive, boy, he kept getting it, letting that clock eat up. And those things come in big, don't they?
He's been a nice player for us, Chad, since before. I've known Ethan and his family. His brother played here. His brother's an outstanding player for us. Played on a good football team in 13 and 14, Micah. So Ethan comes from a great family. He's a fine young man, a good mentor for a lot of our younger kids, good role model for a lot of our younger kids. He does an outstanding job on the field, very coachable. He was out with an injury for a while and came back. And with missing Stone last week threw a little bit of a wrench into our run game. So we spent a couple days or a day talking about what we were going to do. So we thought about a 2-person rotation potentially between Wyatt and Ethan. And so Wyatt did get some carries, but Ethan got the ball covered. We were able to run the ball at him, and Ethan protected the ball, and because they were trying to strip him. And it's hard when all 11 of them's going for the ball, but we were able to run the clock out. it's no better. We weren't able to line the victory formation because time ran out, but we essentially ended the game with the ball in our hands, and that's what you want.
And another thing that doesn't necessarily get a lot of credit a lot of times. It's not necessarily, you don't necessarily want to be punting, but it's a extremely important part of the game. And Central Hardin, you talked about Cade flipping the field. That was real big. And he I think it was a 40 and a 48-yard punt the other night, which helps the defense out a lot.
Cade's a good athlete. He started at outside linebacker for us last year. We're not playing an outside linebacker this year because he's playing quarterback. And we kind of did the same thing when Bennett was playing quarterback. And when Cade was out, we didn't play Bennett on defense. But Cade's probably one of our better defensive players that doesn't play defense. Now, we have to play him there some as the year goes on, potentially. But, he can do a lot of things at punting. We had a young man last year that we thought would come out for us. He ended up deciding that football wasn't for him, and he went another direction, so we had to find us a punter. So Cade stepped right in there. He's kind of embraced the role. He's kind of cool back there. Sometimes he might get a low snap. The one at Central Hardin was low, and he was able to get it off. And then sometimes he might bobble it, but he gets it off, So it's a tough spot back there. I think maybe something we might look to do later in the year is do a little quick kick. I think because having him back there at quarterback, he can do the quick kick. My only reservation with that is he's got to be pretty precise with the ball because you have your starting offensive line out there. I love those guys, but it's tough sometimes when a little bit bigger going down there and making those plays in open space. That's just a reality. No knock against them because in a small space they're knocking somebody backwards several yards. So, but anyway, that may be something we lean to. But you're right. He did an outstanding job Friday night.
Well, and then talking about the defense, you've already spoke to their speed. And they were wanting to get around on that corner quick, but one of the big ones that stood out for me, and he had a pretty good big game at Central last week too, was Thomas Fox. I think he led the team with 11 tackles this week. He had a tackle for a loss and a sack too.
Yeah, I think Thomas got called for a penalty that was. And Chad, I'm not getting on the officials. Sometimes they miss calls, just like I make mistakes too. But he got called for a crucial penalty in the game that I think they called him for grabbing the kid's helmet. And it's interesting because it didn't look like he did it live action, but on the film, he had probably the bottom part of his numbers when he tackled the kid. So, but it was a great play actually, and he got a 15-yard penalty. The official throws it right away. I'm like, we even saw that from our sideline. But sometimes, arguing is not. You got to move on. That's just a reality. But Thomas played an outstanding game. He was a two-way starter for us. I don't think he came off the field last week on offense and defense, but maybe 3 plays. We put Connor Yance in there. We're continuing. Connor's a defensive starter too. We're continuing to develop him as an O lineman because we need to get Thomas off the field. So we cannot take him off the field on defense. Too valuable. Plays hard. Fine kid to coach. He's a part of that junior class. It's pretty solid. So we're fortunate to have him. And he's a fun kid to coach. He's got a good disposition. He's another kid. If you get on him a little bit, he knows that you're getting on him because you want him to be a better football player and the best person he can be too, which he's already fine young man. But sometimes you got to get on these kids, just because you care about them and you love them and you want them to do their best, especially when you know they have ability. Thomas is a young man, you can do that too, and not all players you can do that too, but he's one of them. So yeah, he's a fun kid to coach, and he's had a really good game in the Central Hardin game too. He followed it up with another good game Friday night.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of to wrap up on the defense, and last week we also, I think we had 1 interception, but we won the turnover thing because you're talking to Connor Yance. He recovered a big fumble, and then Braden Mofield, he had a big interception for, I think, 30-yard return on that.
Yeah, both of those were big. Connor's was big in the sense that we were able to score off that one. And they mishandled the ball a little bit. I think it was like a jet sweep or sweep action. They put it on. Connor pounced on it quick. And then the one that Braden picked off, Bennett actually broke the pass up, and the ball was floating in the air, and Braden picked it off. And that was right before the half, if I'm not mistaken. And that was huge because we were able just to run the clock out, not give them an opportunity. Chad, they were a better football team than their record. Now, Did they have some things that didn't go as well for them? Yeah, but they have athletes. Defensively, they were pretty good size. Their record's a little bit deceiving. I think they're better than they were. We cautioned our kids all week, guys. It's an 0-4 team, but they're much better than that, and I think our kids realize that. We may not have played our best at times, but the number one thing is we came out with a win. At the end of the day, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it's a win on your record. Nobody looks at style points. So most important thing, we won the game, and our kids played hard.
Yeah. And I guess transitioning over into this week, I did notice I was looking at the coaches poll, and in 6A we kind of moved up into that 13th spot. Ironically, Central Hardin's still ranked ahead of us, so I wonder who these coaches are asking after they drop too. But you're 4-1, you're on a 4-game winning streak, you're moving up in the rankings. Maybe talk about the importance of not only just of the Bardstown game, but the importance of keeping all these young men with their focus and not getting ahead of themselves.
Yeah, that is something, Chad. I think you have to guard against. I think maybe after the Daviess County game, we, as a coaching staff, we reflected: did we have them prepared well enough? I think we did. I always say that maybe should work on this or that, but this bunch is focused at times. Sometimes they're a little loosey goosey, but I think you need a little bit of that. You got to be careful because winning is hard. I think you and I have talked about this before. I never want to get in a situation where I'm down about winning a football game. Wins here in the last 7-8 years have been few and far between. So winning a game is important. So I don't want these kids to walk out of the locker room and say we're disappointed in a loss. The win. So we didn't play our best maybe at times, but I think we learned from it. And our kids they seem to rebound this week. I think our kids are wise enough to know that the meat of our schedule lies ahead. But I also think that our kids are competitors. They're going to compete. And that's one thing I really like about our kids. I think we noticed this a few years ago that we had a couple of classes coming up that like to compete. Now, there's not a lot of them, but that goes back to football's still the toughest game in town. It's easier than it's probably ever been everywhere, but it's still kind of a tough game. You got to show up, you got to work, you got to have discipline, you got to rely on your brothers out there. So, but yeah, Bardstown's a formidable opponent. It won't take us long if we get to feeling good about ourselves. Bardstown can bring us down real quick. They're one of the best teams in the state, I think. They played a pretty good schedule. They played 3 really good teams, I think, and 2 teams maybe not as good. And so that's a little, they're one of their coaches, and I started talking about this in probably late December, and talking about playing. I told them, I saw you playing the state finals. I know what kind of team you had. They were all juniors pretty much. There's a few seniors, but they're all coming back for this year. So they are a veteran team that is athletic in a lot of positions. They have an outstanding player in Ty Williams, number 3, but they have other things to go with him. And one thing I told our kids I like about him is he plays every snap. Sometimes in this kind of, I don't know if I'd say modern age of football, kids think they're a specialist in something. They want to play offense, they want to play defense. Ty Williams stays on the field the whole game. I'm not sure he ever comes off, And so I don't know the young man personally, but I think that says a lot about him because I think he's, kind of athlete. A lot of times an athlete that's that exceptional will say, I want to play here, I want to play there. He plays both ways. And fortunately this year I don't think we have kids that are like that. I think they kind of realize, they want to play. You should want to play every down you can play. So anyway, hopefully the kids will stay focused and because we do have the hardest part of our schedule lies ahead.
Well, you're talking about Williams, what he put up 244 yards rushing last week, all 5 of their touchdowns, and a 75-yard punt return. And it looked like looking back through some of the stats of their games, they'll pass a little bit. And they like to pass to him, but it looks like are they more of just a run?
Yeah, I tell you another thing. I've got to give him credit for just watching them. Chad, I've coached long enough to where I think I can. When I see a team, they do something and they do it well. It's not the flavor of the week with Bardstown. They run what we call buck sweep. Some people may call it power sweep. They either put a wing in there and a tight end, and they're going to block down. Or they're going to block down with one. Now, they'll kick out with the halfback a lot of times. But they'll block down with the wing and the tight end, they'll kick out. And they run it, and they run it, and they run it. They run it out of 5 or 6, 7 different formations. And they force you to stop it. They're going to do a lot of stuff. It's a lot of window dressing. But when it comes down to it, it's counter and it's buck sweep for them, and you got to stop it. You got to stop it. Now, you're not going to totally stop the Williams kid.
Yeah.
You got to try to contain him a little bit. I mean, he's really good. I mean, I watched him in the state finals. We have to tackle well. Fortunately, I feel like we're athletic. We just got to tackle. It's one thing to be able to get. You got to get to the tackle and make it. You got to be confident, and because sometimes if you set back on those tackles, that's when those guys make those moves and they can burn you. So, not only do we have to get there, we have to tackle well, and we have to get all 11 guys to the ball. You know, it's kind of cliche-ish, I guess, in football. But you need to get 11 guys to the ball, and because they're an outstanding team. It'll be a good atmosphere, I think, because I think Bardstown people show up. I think Meade County people show up. That's a nice town over there. There's probably places to eat and stuff that people want to go and do things before the game. So it should be an exciting atmosphere. Hopefully our kids will come ready to play.
Well, we wish you the best of luck as we finish up this road stand, and you know, it's like I said, and it's turning around, going into district and stuff. So it'd be good to get this one up under our belt and hopefully bring home another win as we turn towards district play. So we wish you the best.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. Thank you all, you Green Wave Nation, for coming out and supporting us. You know, on this 3-game road stand, we appreciate it. It's a long trip down to Owensboro, but we heard you down there, and we're excited about having you. And follow us over to Bardstown tomorrow night. Our young men feed off of it.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Green Wave Nation, and we hope to see you all on Friday.